Hello and welcome to the Alchemy of Alignment. This is a podcast when we dive into those juicy, deep conversations about purpose. And I'm really excited that one of my heroes, if I can say that, at this early on has agreed to come and spend some time with me discussing what purpose means to them. And I've got Greg here, and I came across Greg a few years back when I had the privilege of witnessing one of his talks, and it blew my mind. So being the ever positive, enthusiastic girl, I was like, I need to hang out with this guy some more. And he said yes. So here we are. We're in the Zoom room. Greg is a best-selling author, a speaker, one of the most eloquent storytellers I've ever met. And I hope he's not blushing too much when I just welcome Greg to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And yeah, I'm massively blushing. So thank you.
Well, I don't want to make you this uncomfortable early on in the conversation, because I mean, that would be awkward. But before we dive in, I would just like to express gratitude to you for listening today and absorbing this conversation. And I would love to know what you are taking from it. So let's dive in. And Greg, I'd like to start with a big question, as I always do. So how deeply do you feel connected to your purpose today?
So I consider myself incredibly lucky on two fronts. The first, I genuinely believe I've got the best job in the world. So my whole life is about helping others become successful. And I don't do that in a coaching way, although there is mentorship and guidance involved in that. I offer people a structure so they can build their best life, so that they can grow their business and take themselves forward. And during that journey, there's a lot of personal development that comes alongside. And I was really lucky to kind of stumble into that environment. I was, at the age of 14, I wanted to be a pilot for the RAF. And then I discovered playing the drums, and that kind of went out the window. And I stumbled into a sales job and then into my own business. And then I found myself in this incredible environment where people selflessly put others first. So, we're all in business, we should be competing. And I find myself in an environment where people will go out of their way to help others. And I discovered very, very early on, due to some family trauma and some personal bereavement, that there are incredible people out there in the world that will just make sure that you're okay when they think that you're not. So my purpose is twofold. I don't want anyone ever to feel alone. And that's in business and in personal life. And I also don't ever want anyone to feel like they can't succeed. We've got a terrible culture in the UK. We cheer for the underdog, and then when they're successful, we berate them for being successful. So, when we see someone with a new car or a new van, you must be charging too much. And people wearing nice watches, instead of saying, you've worked really hard for that, well done, we tend to drag them down, or we try to. And I want to be the opposite of that. So when I see someone with new branded clothing because their business is doing well, I'll say how much I like it. Genuine compliments that cost nothing but mean the world. So my purpose is to just perpetuate that every single day, because others have for me, and I feel like I've got an incredible debt to repay, and I'm not even 10% on that journey of repaying it yet. At every moment in my life where I needed help and support, people appeared and unreservedly gave their time, their energy, and in some cases their money to help me. And my purpose is making sure that I repay that people can feel like they're allowed to be successful and have a pathway to that, and that no one ever feels on their no one ever feels like they're on their own again.
Wow. I mean, as purposes go, well, thank you for sharing that, because I mean, I'm trying to pin my brain down to focus on what's next. But what a powerful purpose. And you say you're lucky, but I believe to some degree we do craft our own luck. And you're so right with that cheering for the underdog story. What's that about?
It's for British stiff upper lip. We apologize about success, and we are embarrassingly humble. So there's the anecdotal story of the accountant in America. He drives let's say a BMW. He's doing really, really well. So he buys himself a Porsche, parks it outside, and people start walking into his shop saying, "Hey, you must be really good. You drive a Porsche. You must be incredible at what you do. Please, can you look after my business?" Same thing happens in the UK, and the guy has to get rid of the Porsche because people stop using him because they think he charges too much. And it really is that kind of cultural difference in America. And I'm using America as an example because there is the American dream. They really celebrate success, and in the UK, we're embarrassed by it. Now, I don't know if it's a breakdown of previous class systems, but we really do. We want to see the underdog succeed until they do, and then we want to drag them back down to whatever level they started, and in some cases below. And that's not right. And it's okay. What I love about what we do. So for your listeners, I don't know, but Susie and I met through a networking organization called BNI. The philosophy of BNI is give as gain. And people wrongly say it's I'm going to give you business, so you'll give me business in return. It's more cyclical like that. It's about business karma. It's about putting great stuff out there, knowing that that will perpetuate and come around and benefit you ultimately. And there's enough out there for everyone to be successful. We don't have to compete. We can collaborate and we can cheer for one another. And I've got so many people in my tiny region that I look after that on paper are competitors, but are the best of friends and are actually the best referral partners for one another because they've worked out a way that they can coexist in the space. And I think the more of that we can do, the better. And when we collaborate rather than compete, everything gets better. So, people don't feel stressed. They're not under pressure. They've always got support alongside. When we spend that money with local companies rather going than national, then everything about our local environment gets better. So we support charities. We get involved with social economic enterprises. There's a great example of the Orpington Business Improvement District. And because they had a focus on generating local business, all of a sudden they've got flowers and plants and planters along the high street, whereas before it was crisp packets and waste. So when we have a focus on working together, everything about our working life and where we live just improves. So I don't know why we're down on success in this country, but it needs to change. We can rally behind common enemies. There's enough of them out there, but it shouldn't be your fellow entrepreneur or your fellow business owner. It should be, let's take up arms against people that are jumping through tax loopholes and, big conglomerates from around the world. Let's not take up arms against people that are trying to support their family and the families of those that they employ. So, yeah, sorry, rambly answer. You're going to get a lot of those today. I tend to go off on tangents.
I know. And I do as well. So it's my job to keep us on track, but it's all such meaningful stuff. And, you're hitting on your two kind of twofold purpose there, but you're so right. Everybody wins when we collaborate and we support each other and we work together. And I remember you've reminded me of when early on in my business, when Alchemy Virtual Assistants was finding its feet. I like to refer to it as the toddler business years. I remember confiding in someone what our plans were and what we were going to do and how we were gonna make that collective impact stronger and more meaningful. And someone said to me, "Why would you help the competition?" And I was really taken aback. I was like, I don't see it that way. I want to help other people do what I've done. How and it really dumbfounded me. And you're right, it's a deep culture thing in this country, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a bit weird because again, our organization, when it came over to the UK, people were accusing it of being too American. And we still get a bit of that actually. It's very American. We clap and we cheer a lot, and we don't call them groups, we call them chapters, and it's all very American, and they have a president and all stuff like that. But if you actually speak to the founder, he describes it as the least American thing you'll ever find, because when you go out into a sales environment in America, it's about beating the other guy. It's about putting your competition not out of business, but in the ground. That's the expression they use. I'm going to put my competition in the ground. So this idea of businesses coming and working together is probably the least kind of Wolf of Wall Street, breakfast is for wimps kind of, lunch is for wimps kind of organization you're ever going to find. And it does take people a while to get out of that mindset of, I need to be protective over everything. Because ultimately, we've probably got about 20% of the stuff that we do when we go into business. And I'm talking as a small business owner now, when I joined, 20% of the stuff is the stuff that we either really enjoy doing or actually makes us money. And we kind of take on the rest of the 80% stuff to feed the beast, to keep the lights on, to pay the bills, to put petrol in the vehicles and all that kind of stuff. Now, imagine what your business and what your life would look like if you only did the 20% that you really enjoyed and really made a load of money from, and you outsource the other 80% that gave you time and the capacity to really focus on that 20%. Well, that's what we do. I joke. I remember when I first walked into a networking environment, I had about 15 products listed and services listed on the back of my business card. Now, I was a signage company. Essentially, in-house, we did signs, banners, flags, and vehicle graphics. And technically, we outsourced flags. But on the back, I had graphic design, web design, event management, branded clothing. I had promotional items. I had this whole list of things that I could get done, but I didn't do myself. And I said I was very lucky because I was educated. I think I was 26 when I came into that environment. And it was like, yeah, but all you're doing is buying this stuff in and you're adding a markup. Why don't you just give that to me and I'll give you all the stuff that you do in the house, which has got a higher profit margin because it's based on labor and materials rather than just buying in materials and adding in a markup. And it was revolutionary for me. It also got me out of that small business mindset of, I used to spend 2 to 3 hours on my back fixing a computer because I thought it would save me money. And then someone said to me, you realize that it would probably cost you 75 quid to get that done by an IT company. And those 3 hours you could charge out £300. And it's one of the reasons I use a VA as a great example is, a lot of our skilled tradespeople are 75, £100 an hour skilled trade rate, but yet they're staying in their office until 10:30 at night doing bookkeeping and trying to get the invoices out. And because of that, they're pushing it right to the back. They've got no family life. They've got no time with their significant other. And ultimately, their business fails, not because of lack of work, but because of the cash flow gap increasing because they can't get the invoices out quick enough. So as soon as we focus on what's great and what we can actually earn money and we enjoy and we're good at, and we let other people do the rest, all of a sudden everyone starts succeeding. So, and that can apply both on me giving work to someone totally different, but it can also apply to me giving work to people who on paper look exactly the same as me. Like, I've got a cross-regional power team of virtual assistants. Some love Excel, some can put a PowerPoint presentation together, some absolutely love Xero and doing little bits of bookkeeping and payroll and stuff like that. And they give the work to those that are passionate about it and can do it in half the time. So essentially, it's saving them painful work that they don't want to do, saving their clients money, and they get to focus on the stuff they like to do, because it comes back the other way when that person who doesn't like PowerPoint all of a sudden wants you to put together some PowerPoint slides for them. So again, massive ramble to that answer. But yeah, I think when we focus on the stuff we actually like and we're good at and get rid of the rest, that's when we start enjoying what we do. And that whole thing about finding something that you enjoy and making money from it, we've all got that somewhere in our business already. We just have to work out what that looks like. You could have the absolute worst job in the world, but if you work out the 20% that really lights your fire and focus on that, then you're never going to work another day in your life.
You're so right. And what a beautiful example of everybody winning from working together and that business karma being generated. I love that as a concept, business karma. So where's your focus then? What are the things that really light you up you're working on at the moment?
So every opportunity that I've had starts with my members being successful. I consider my region a family. We're as dysfunctional as most families. So we've got the gregarious auntie, we've got the creepy uncle, we've got all that kind of stuff going on. But ultimately, my members are my family, and I take it personally when people step away from that family saying that it hasn't worked. I really do take it personally. So my primary focus is members in my region and making sure that they're successful. And as such, we run some incredible regional events. We do a monthly event called the Green Club, where we get the top performers in the region together. And then twice a year, we open that up to everyone. So we got one of those this month, and that it's so much work. And every time I'm like, is it worth it? And then, of course, you get to the event and you just pick up snippets of people going, oh, yeah, we were meant to get together, and passing tens of thousands of pounds worth of business over a meal and a pint. And you've done that and you've put that together, and that's incredibly rewarding. So my focus is always going to be my region. Luckily, because my members are incredible, and from incredible members have come amazing leaders, and I've built a wonderful team that I support. Well, I say I support, I'm probably a hindrance most of the time. But we've had success, and long may that continue. We never go for success. We always say if we do the right things for the right reasons, everything will follow. But because of that, I've been blessed with some wonderful opportunities. So I get to speak all around the world. I'm emceeing a global conference in Madrid in a few weeks' time. I've just been out to South Africa doing some training. I've written a book with the founder of our organization and one of my closest friends, Julian Lewis. And all of that is a result of helping members be successful. And I never, ever want to use that. Like, you and I would not be talking now if my members weren't successful. We just wouldn't. We met at a national event, or was it a regional event? I can't quite remember now.
I think, and I'm thinking slowly because it was the COVID years, but I think it was a regional Green Club that you came along to speak at, and that was a funny old time, wasn't it? Lockdown.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I remember one of the stories that really stuck in my mind was about kind of starting a movement.
Yes. Yeah. So the dancing man in the field one. Yeah. So
yeah.
But I wouldn't have been at that event if I hadn't had the focus on helping my members be successful. So that's always going to be my focus. But I love the other stuff that's alongside. Like, I love doing this. I love speaking at events. I love the authoring side. It's something that I never thought I'd be able to do. And it's, they say everyone's got one good book in them. Actually, the truth is, everyone's got a book in them. There's no guarantee it's going to be good. So the fact that I was able to write my first one with a New York Times best-selling author has meant that the first book that has my name on it is incredible. And I can take very little credit for that. It's all the guidance of Ivan and Julian, and I threw a few stories in there. So long may all of that stuff continue. But yeah, my focus is always going to be on members being successful in my region, and at some point I hope that my region will grow. I'll have influence over members in other regions as well, maybe members around the world. But that why will never change. It will always be that it's never going to be about turnover for me. It's never going to be about profit. It's always going to be about, are my members successful? And the day that changes is the day that I'll sell my business. I hope I never do.
Doing the right thing and the success flows, right? And
yeah, totally.
What an amazing experience that first book must have been.
Yeah. So one of the things I say to everyone is that this organization that I stumbled into will take you anywhere you want to go, but don't ever expect anyone to come and offer it to you. There are incredible speakers. There are incredible business people all over our organization. We've got 300,000 people in 79 different countries. And I've done some incredible things that I still think back on and go, oh yeah, I did that. That's really weird. That still kind of take my breath away. Like speaking in Bangkok with a Madonna headset mic and a jumbo screen and 3,500 people in front of me. It's just a ridiculous thing to do. But everything that I've done, I've thrown my hat in the ring for. And that would be my big bit of advice to anyone. I don't believe in the fake it till you make it. I believe in the take the opportunity, offer your services, and then work incredibly hard to make sure you deliver on what people are expecting. So people often say to me, how do you remember all these stories? How do you do a 45-minute presentation with no notes? I practice. But to have even set foot on that stage, I've thrown my hat in the ring 20 times previously. And you can't get upset if people say no. You can't get upset if people are better. You just have to kind of put your head down and go, right, okay. I remember the first time I asked to be on the national training team, so training new directors coming through, and the national director at the time went, yeah, but we want your region to be this. And I kind of looked at other people on the team and thought, well, their region isn't. So, and for a split second, I was like, well, why am I being held to those standards? And then I realized that they wanted to see that I was good enough. I'm going to be standing up in front of people that will be shaping the lives of others going forward. They wanted to test my mettle, and everyone who was on that team had already proven themselves in different ways. So my metric was different to someone else's metric, but their metric had been set and they proved it. And, I'm really happy to say I'm on the national training team now. And again, I absolutely adore it because I can have that influence outside of my region, but almost indirectly to other members in BNI. So, yes.
Some solid gold there, Greg. And do you know what? It's really funny because I think social media's got a lot to answer for, hasn't it? And people don't always see those 20 times that it was a no.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So I'm just reworking a presentation that I did back in Dublin in 2019. It's called How Will You Feel in 30 Minutes? And it's based around overcoming avoidance behaviors. But there's a big section in it about warriors. So about people that you kind of look at and think they were an overnight success, but it took them years to become an overnight success. And there's a great book out there by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers, and he codifies it by saying you need to do 10,000 hours at any given thing to be an expert. And I use the example of Bill Gates and David Beckham and the Beatles. And then latterly, I've gone into A-level students just before they sit their A-levels. And I've adapted it and included YouTube. And you've got people working 5 years, 40 hours a week, uploading and editing videos to get to 1 million followers. And their 1 million followers are returning them $17,000 a year. So essentially, they've already worked 5 years at minimum wage to return minimum wage. And obviously, you're going to be able to pick the people right at either end of the bell curve that have worked less time and gone viral and earning more. But the majority of people, the people that really put their nose to the grindstone, they're working a full-time job. They're working it really, really hard, but they're never going to tell you that. You know, and because it's not sexy, you know, people want the clickbait. They want the, you know, yesterday I came out of school and tomorrow I'm buying my first house. It's all, I'm sure there's one or two that are 100% truthful, but the majority of it is to sell you something else down the line. You know, a system, a process. You know, it absolutely amazes me how many people are property millionaires, but yet they're selling you a system that costs you 15 quid to download a load of videos to learn how to be a property millionaire. Surely if you were that good at it, you'd just be doing more of it. So I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there about success. And honestly, so if your listeners take one thing away from today's call, from today's podcast, this needs to be it. The difference between those that succeed and fail anywhere in life is those that succeed keep turning up. You will never fail if you keep turning up. And that can be anything. That can be business. So you turn up to networking events, turn up to client meetings, turn up to quotes, turn up to training, turn up to all that kind of stuff and keep turning up until you hit success. If you consider yourself a poor parent right now, you know, maybe your kids are estranged from you, or maybe your partner's, you know, maybe you consider yourself a bad husband or wife, keep turning up. You know, turn up to date nights, turn up to anniversaries, turn up to Valentine's Day, turn up in whatever way that you see that. Turn up to sports days, to parents' days, turn up to the school run when you can. Be present in the moment and continue to turn up, and you'll be successful. And it may not be instant, it may take a number of years, but you will be successful because nothing can withstand consistency and persistency. If you're consistent and you're persistent, nothing can stop you. And here's the thing, no one will want to. People will applaud you for just staying at it, because there are so many people that we deal with that don't stay at it. They're fleeting, they're gone. And yeah, so that's the big moment there. So, you know, the big difference between success and failure, those that succeed continue to turn up.
Need to take a moment on that. I mean, you're making my job easy today, Greg. Turn up. I can see the quote cards. You're so right, though. And consistency. And I think, there's so much swirling in my brain now from what you said earlier about, you know, championing the underdog until they're successful and not seeing always things appearing as an overnight success, and smoke and mirrors. And you heard it here, people, turning up, right? That's not always easy to do, though, is it?
Well, it depends how you define turning up. So we all go through highs and lows. So, you know, there's an award behind me, a Global Positivity Award.
There's quite a few, Greg. There's quite a few awards behind you. Yeah.
And, you know, people see me as a really positive, bouncy person. That's not me all the time. You know, I feel really sorry for my fiance, Frankie, because she gets the Greg that overanalyzes and internalizes and runs through every possible outcome in my mind. And I am an overanalyzer. I'll take every situation and try to work out every permutation before I take a move. And because of that, I can get quite I do go quiet. I internalize. And the way someone described it to me once is it's like a stand-up comedian. They're not funny all the time. You know, they're just not. But turning up can be you knowing when to give your energy. So, you know, if you've got that friend that's always posting a load of incredible stuff on Facebook or on Instagram or TikTok is a different thing for me. I have no idea how that works. You're never going to have me dancing. And all of a sudden they go quiet. That's the time to turn up. And turning up can just be a little voice note on WhatsApp saying, "Hello, mate, I haven't seen you for a while. Are you okay?" That's what turning up can be. And just picking up on changes and you know, the amount of times where I see people posting really incredible life events on social media and nobody likes them. You know, like they've started a new business or I saw one the other day where their son had achieved something and like it had been up for about 8 hours and it had 2 or 3 likes on it. And, you know, be that person who goes on and goes, "Oh, this is amazing. It's incredible." It takes you seconds, costs you nothing, but will mean the world to everyone involved. It has to be genuine. You know, like if you see someone on Facebook who wasn't very nice to you at school and you actually, you know, it's not a genuine well done, then number one, why are you friends with them? You don't need that in your life. But pay those genuine compliments because they don't cost anything at all. And they really, really do mean a lot to those that you pay them to.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm taking away from this conversation today. Be more Greg. Be more Greg. Because you're right. If everybody's doing just that one little thing to turn up for someone else, that in itself is the movement. That's the momentum. That's the whole point, right?
Yeah. And do you know what? Don't be more Greg. The world would be terrible if there were like if there were more of me. I'm all wavy arms. I'm all, you know, rambling stories and stuff like that. So just make it work for yourself. So, you know, it's okay to say well done to someone. It's okay that other people have success. There's enough space in the universe for us all to be successful. It's okay that someone starts a podcast, even if you've had a secret intention to do it yourself. You know, there's enough space out there to go and start a podcast yourself. You know, there's and I'm saying that in case any of your listeners are like, "Oh, I wish I'd done that." Brilliant, go and do it.
Do it, yeah.
On your way, say well done to Susie for doing hers, because you know there's a brilliant book out there called Regrets of the Dying, and it sounds really, really, really morbid. It's not. But the biggest thing that people regret on their deathbed is the stuff that they haven't done. You know, not making yourself look like an idiot by waving at someone across a bar or you know, wasting money on a car which broke down or going on a holiday which wasn't what it was meant to be. The biggest regrets are the stuff that you don't do. So just go and do it. Find a way of doing it. Even if you have to work hard to get there, find a way of doing it. And on your way to lifting yourself up, make sure you lift others up as well.
So much inspiration. And firstly, I thought you were reading my mind a little bit then, because this podcast has been in my mind and on my to-do list for about 3 years. And I have honestly, if you need an excuse as to not do it, I've had them running through my head. And then I was like, do you know what? I'm going to turn up. I'm going to do it. Here I am.
Absolutely. And I think there's the old Buddhist saying, isn't there? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So we can't affect what we wanted to do in the past. We can affect what we want to do now. So anything that you want to do, just kind of crack on and do it.
Absolutely. And this wouldn't be, there's always at least one book recommendation that comes out of these conversations. So my reading list is ridiculous, but we will make sure that we can get those links popped in. And Greg, honestly, I'm going to have to wrap this up, because otherwise it's going to be, a whole day of podcasting, because I could be here with you as long as you would let me. But how is the best way for people to connect with you?
Oh, just find me on social media. So I don't know how this is being promoted, but find me on Facebook. I look like me. It's the best way to find me. I'm on LinkedIn. My name is Greg Davies, but I'm not the big comedian. He's taller, wealthier, and funnier than I am. So yeah, just find me on social media and reach out. It's the best way.
Thank you so much, Greg. And I normally like to close on something poignant, but I think we've had enough of that already. So I would just like to express my gratitude to you for being here. And that's Greg. That's you listening. That's everyone. Thank you so much for your time today, Greg.
Well, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.